Alright guys, so now we're going to install the motherboard into the case that we've completed our cable management on. And for this, cases should come with standoffs, and that is this little thing right here. Not sure I'll put it in the light so you can see it. It's basically just an offset. It has a threaded part here, and then a female side right there, and you stick this into the motherboard. Just behind the motherboard, you stick it into the case, screw it in, and then that offsets whatever distance this is, so that the leads on the back of the motherboard, there's little pins back there, if you can feel it, so that those don't touch the metal and nothing shorts. And that's extremely important. This case actually had 2 installed already, I guess, to remind you, and then you stick in the ones that you need. But yeah, always make sure you have those. So we're going to be putting in as much as we can. We have 1 hole there, and then 2, 3, and then here's another 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's total holes on this thing, but we're not going to use all of those. We're going to use like 8 or 9, partially because one's covered up by a heatsink, but it's not that important. As long as you get pretty much like 2 on top, 2 in the middle, 2 on bottom, it's going to be very solid.
Okay, so depending on the size of your motherboard, the amount of screws you're going to need may vary. For instance, this motherboard is ATX, which is pretty standard, but if you have like an extended ATX motherboard, you're going to need more motherboard screws. So always be sure to count them, and of course their position in the case. Some cases actually label the pre-drilled holes, with like ATX, and it kind of helps you out, but just double check that you have all your motherboard standoffs in the right place.
Alright, that's pretty good right now, and I just want to mention to you guys, while we had to send this board back to EVGA in order to get it to work with the CPU, I actually sent back the I/O plate that goes in the slot right here, because I thought that they wanted that back. For some reason I just included it because it came with the motherboard in the first place, and apparently they didn't send us back another one, and so that's not very good, because the I/O plate is important. It grounds the back plate of the motherboard to the case, so you don't get any static. But we're not going to be running this computer very long, so we're going to risk it, I guess, just because it's a cheap motherboard, and we want to get this video to you guys fast. But please don't put it in without a back plate, and keep track of your back plate.
Yes, so your motherboard should come with that I/O plate, and make sure you place it before you place the I/O plate in before you place the motherboard in. And you want to put it in from the inside first and just have it sticking out. So now Max is going to be putting in the motherboard. The easiest way to do this is to firmly grip the CPU heatsink. Again, it should be securely secured on the motherboard. If you're using like a push pin setup, it may be better to grab the edges of the motherboard and just gently insert it. But once you put that on, make sure all the holes line up with the standoffs, and of course, once you have an I/O plate, the port should be nice and firm.
Yeah, remember to put your I/O plate in before you put the motherboard in, because you cannot get it in once you're screwed in. I made that mistake before, and it's pretty annoying.
Yep. Alright, so now that the motherboard's in, all you have to do now is basically screw in all the places where you put in those standoffs to make sure that once you actually tilt your case over on the proper side, it doesn't just fall out on you. That'd be pretty bad if you forgot to screw it in.
Yep, and these screws should come with the case or motherboard. Usually the case though, and I don't know. You can buy them separately if you're using an old case, I guess. Performance PCs probably sells them. I'm sure. I've seen lots of different sizes of screws on their site, but it's yeah. I would recommend you guys, if you have a new case or something, you're probably going to get like a little pack of screws. I would recommend keeping them in a safe place that you know where it is, so that you can always go to them if you ever need those in the future.
Alright, so Max is just about done finishing screwing this in, and this is pretty much, we're about to finish, basically building our computer, but we do have a few other things left, which is basically, of course, plugging in the motherboard connections, plugging in the case headers. For instance, if you want to press the on button or use a USB at the front of your case, you're going to have it connect to the motherboard. And of course, connecting in those SATA drives or whatever disk drives or hard drives you're using.
And this last one might be a bit tricky because it is between here. Let's see. Luckily this screw stays onto the screwdriver. So
no pressure, right?
got it. Alright. There we go. That looks good. It's all sturdy in there. It's not going to be moving.
Alright, so we got the motherboard installed. Now just imagine what it'd be like if you just booted up your computer right now. You had a problem and you have to take your motherboard out. It'd be a huge hassle. So that's, the main reason why Max and I advocate testing all your components outside of your case. Then once you realize everything's all fine and dandy, you can then just begin to install it and just kind of breeze through it.
Alright guys, I'm just going to continue on here. What I just did there is I unscrewed the plate that covers the GPU slot in the back. And typically with the new cards you're going to have to do 2 of them because they're a bit thicker because of the bigger heat sinks. But this one that we're using only takes 1 slot, so that's the one that corresponds to the slot we're taking.
Keep in mind that some cases, these, once you remove them, you can't really put them back. So make sure that you know which PCI slot you're using.
Yeah, this one I think will go back in the future. Yeah, that's good, but yeah, that is true for some older cases. Alright, let's see here.
That's for the GPU, so let's go actually go grab that right now. The graphics card.
Alright, I want to plug in the CPU power right here really quick, and then we'll do that.
So now again, it's just reconnecting all those power supply connections. Again, if you already tested it outside your case, you should know exactly where to go.
Getting my pliers here.
Yeah, we're using our cable management setup. So again, this 8-pin in this corner here might be a little bit of a problem. Max can be a little bit careful with his pliers there. Don't want to ruin any components.
Yes. Okay. There we go. Alright guys, so that was a pretty hard cable to get in. I had to use the needle nose pliers to get in there and stick the fan clip back in. And while I did that, I did cut myself on the heatsink. These are very sharp, so just be careful. This isn't too bad, but you might do it if you're not careful. I've actually done that on Xbox ones too. That was pretty bad. But yeah, alright.
So that's probably one of the hardest cables. The rest of the stuff, relatively simple, such as the 24-pin motherboard connection, which you just...
Yeah, let's get that in right here. So we have it just nicely on the edge, and then just going to flip it around like this, and stick it right in there.
So this is where it pays off to have nice cable management.
Oh, whoops. This actually came off. There you can see this is the 20-pin, and then you add the 4 in. There we go. Alright. Okay, and there was one fan connection right here that our splitter only does 5 of them. So this one I'm going to have to stick straight in the motherboard.
4 of them. This is our 5th.
Oh yeah, sorry. It does 4 of them. This is the 5th one. It goes right in here in the motherboard. There's another fan header right there. And let's see what else we have here. I want to get the front panel done, but let's first do the HD audio and USB.
So for these connections, your case connections, it's extremely important that you look at your motherboard manual, and they'll have it all detailed out for which headers go to where. If you're not sure, because if you do mix up 1 or 2, it's a big deal.
Yeah, now this is the HD audio. You can tell because it has 2 leads. One is for normal Realtek AC97 right there, and then HD audio is just a bit higher quality. As you can see, there's more connections that are used up. So basically, all new motherboards will support the HD audio with their onboard sound. So let's go ahead and use that one. And we looked in the manual, but this right here, this is the header for the front panel HD audio, and if you can see, one of the leads is blank right there. There's no hole, and there's no lead right there. So we're just going to line those up and stick it on just like this. And that looks like a good fit. And we can just tuck this away, not going to be used. Alright, and then for the USB, same thing. These USB ports in the front of your case that you always see aren't going to work until you plug this header into the motherboard. And there's another one in the corner that's blocked, and there's no lead right there. So we're going to use that, line it up, and then just stick it on like that. Alright.
If you guys notice, there's extra USB leads. That's because if you wanted, for example, an additional USB outputs at the back of your case, you can always just get one of those, whether it's aftermarket or it came with your motherboard, and just get more USB slots.
Yep, and you'd be surprised how many components actually use these leads. Like a card reader in front will do it, and there's lots of other ones that you just plug straight into the USB because it's such a good interface that can be applied to many different things. So now that that's done, we have our front panel connectors, which these are probably the most annoying ones to use, but as you can see, we have, luckily they're labeled. A lot of our newer cases have started to label them. So you see our reset switch right there, HDD LED, power LED plus and minus, and then power switch. So
I think this might actually take a little longer. We're probably gonna have to consult our manual. So when we check back, we'll have it all installed. Alright guys, Max has got the case headers in for the front LED switches, the on-off and all that's good jazz. Now we're going to be installing the GPU. Relatively simple, like Max said. You want to first find what PCIe, to be more specific, slot you're going to use, and simply line up the notches. Just put her in. Again, make sure beforehand that your GPU will not interfere with your hard drive cage, because that's the worst thing when you buy a case and a brand new GPU and you figure out it doesn't fit. So as you can see here, Max is screwing it in. This is just to prevent any sort of shaking around. Don't want your GPU falling off. And now Max is gonna use that 6-pin PCIe connector that we had just planned out before. He's simply going to plug that in.
this is a bit of a tight fit, so I'm going to bend it right there, and that should work. Alright. There we go. That's all in. It's all good. Alright, so that is essentially all you're going to see in the front, because we've done our cable management. There's not any wires taking up space where you want airflow. And pretty much all there is the leads on the bottom, and then a few sticking in from the sides.
Alright, so now we're going to move on to our CD drives, which are relatively simple, and we'll have those for you guys in a second.
Alright guys, so now that we've pretty much got everything in, everything plugged in, all the power connections plugged in, except the DVD and hard drive. So that's what we're going to be doing now. Let's start actually with the hard drive. And this case comes with these nice toolless just sliders, and they have pegs right here, and you can just stick the pegs into the side. Now keep in mind that you're going to be sliding the data ends first, so in like that. So that means that you want these handles to be facing on the outside. So we're going to put them in just like this.
Now still, a lot of cases just use old-fashioned screws, and those work fine as well. Just make sure that you line them up and screw them in nice, because especially for a mechanical hard drive that's going to be spinning at, like 7,200 rates per minute, you definitely don't want that loose inside your case.
Alright, so I just decided to stick it in top, just so if we ended up filling them, we could just go down, start with one. And then, so let's get the SATA cable plugged in for that. So we're going to use the same ones that we did last time with the 0 and 1. And I'm just going to plug it in back here. And that's good because it gives us room to cable manage just like this. We can tuck this cable away right there. and then hook it up and over right into the drive, just like that, and then it'll all be hidden. Alright, and then now before we do the power, let's get the DVD drive in. If you come on over to the other side, Corsair, Cooler Master, sorry, they've included this. I'm not sure why, they only have one of them, but it's nice that they include the one. It's just a little latch right here that has pegs that go in. I don't know, you might want to come to the front and then see how it works. But yeah, if you come here and see it. Alright. So if you see on the inside of the case right here, just right there, there's those two pegs that'll hold it in. And you can flip it back and forth, just like that. It's really easy. Okay, so I'm going to set it to unlocked, and then plop the drive in, just like that. Not all the way, because remember the front panel does come out a bit. So we're going to do that, and then slide it in. And it's pretty solid in its place. It'll be even more solid when the front panel goes on.
Okay, so speaking of the front panel, we basically have all our connections now. So it's time to put the front panel back on. Keep in mind that because we just added in the drive, we're going to have to pop off the respective.
Yep, and that's really easy. Just the top one. There's two latches on the back, just like so. And it comes out the front. Alright, and then this is fairly simple. Just line it up and it basically goes on straightforwardly. Right. There we go. And your drive is right there. Nice and sturdy. Sort of. I guess this toolless thing isn't that sturdy. Like, you can see it wobble a tiny bit, but it's not really going to make that much difference. If you guys want, or you can screw in on the side and make it extremely sturdy, but we're not worried about that right now. Alright, one more data connection to put in.
So now we're going to be hooking up the last SATA cable, then hooking up the SATA power, then finally kind of closing up the case. Gonna be putting the other side panel on and wrapping up the assembly portion of the custom PC building guide.
Alright, tucking this away right here. Let's see if we have enough room. Okay, it's kind of a long distance to the top of the case, but...
So as you see here, Max is really utilizing kind of what Cooler Master gave us, the back of the case behind the motherboard tray, just to limit the amount of wires that are actually going to be visible.
Alright, now we have that plugged in right there, and tuck as much of it in back as possible, so we still have a clean look in front. And now we're going to be plugging in the power, which is the last thing. So I'm going to start from this side. Now this one, because it's a pretty big distance, I'm going to use this one and then move over here just to make sure that we have enough. So this one goes face down like this. Alright. Right onto the drive there. And then just stick this up through the top. Let's turn this around again. And the lighting's probably bad, but I'm pretty sure you guys get the idea. Just gonna turn this over. And
yeah, everyone look at Max's hair. Pretty good view here.
this is terrible, but I got it. Alright. Okay.
Alright, so that's all the connections for our PC. It's pretty much built now. We just got to plug it back into a monitor and keyboard, boot it up, you know, install Windows or whatever, favorite operating system.
Yep, let's put the back panel back on so you guys can see that. And
yeah, so I mean, just look at the amount of cables we hid. You know, that's kind of the beauty of cable management, and voila.
Alright, line it up. There we go. Alright, and then we'll put our screws back in there and do the same for the front side. If you guys, we'll show you the finished product right here without the side panel on. Just like this, and I'll bring my light down. There we go. Alright.
Alright, so you definitely get to see kind of the effect cable management has, and Max is about to put on the side panel, and it's going to wrap up this portion of the PC building guide. Okay. So there you go, guys. Assembling a PC isn't hard as long as you know what to do. Some parts can be a little bit tedious and maybe a little dangerous, as you saw Max kind of like cut his hand there on the heatsink.
Yeah, basically like that heatsink is probably one of the biggest I've ever worked with, and if you use the stock ones that come with most of Intel's processors, you won't have any problems like that, and it'll make cable managing easier too. Okay,
well, Max and I'd like to thank you guys for checking out these videos.
Yep. We hope it helps you guys if you're looking to build your own PC and you're a little apprehensive about the process and don't know exactly what to do. So hopefully this will cover everything for you, and we've addressed some problems that you might run into, and hopefully we just give you great advice in general. So hope it's useful.
As always, if you guys do have any comments or suggestions, don't be afraid to leave a comment or send us a message. We're here to help.
Yep, send us email at hardwarehobbyist@gmail.com, or just leave us a comment on this video or our other videos.
Or send us a YouTube message, that works.
Yep, we check YouTube frequently, as well as our email.
Alright, well, see you guys. Thanks for checking us out. Rate, comment, subscribe if I haven't said that already. Peace out.
Later.